Hello, and welcome to Chess Book Reviews 113 and Book Club number 4. I'm combining the two elements today. You'll see why. I'm hoping there'll be a bit of interest for somebody somewhere along the line. Well, excuse my hesitation. That's called by Botvinnik. I'm not going to read you. The curse of chess, the passion for playing chess, is one of the most unaccountable in the world. It slaps the theory of natural selection in the face. It is the most absorbing of occupations, the least satisfying of desires, an aimless excrescence. Not certain what that word is. Upon life, it annihilates a man. You have, let us say, a promising politician, a rising artist that you wish to destroy. Dagger or bomb are archaic, clumsy and unreliable, but teach him inoculating with chess. It is well, perhaps, that the right way of teaching chess is little known, that consequently, in most cases, the plot fails in the performance. The dagger turns aside. Else we should all be chess players. There would be none left to do business of the world. Our statesmen would sit with pocket boards while the country went to the devil. Our army would bury itself in checkered contemplation. Our breadwinners would forget their wives in seeking after impossible mates. The whole world would be disorganized. I can fancy this abominable hypnotism so wrought into the constitution of men that the cabmen will go trying to drive their heroes to Knight's Move up and down Charing Cross Road. And now and again, a suicide would come to hand with a pathetic inscription pinned to its chest. I checked with my queen too soon. I cannot bear the thought of it. There is no remorse like the remorse of chess. Only, happily, as we say, chess is taught the wrong way round. People put the board round before the learner with all the men in the battle array, 16 aside with 6 different kinds of moves, and the poor wretch is simply crushed and appalled. The artistic temperament, the gay irresponsibility cast of mind, does what it can to lighten the gravity of this too intellectual game. To a mortal, there is something indescribably horrible in these champions. With their 4 moves an hour, the bare thought of mental operation of 15 minutes can give one a touch of headache. Compulsory quick moving is the thing of gaiety, and that is where we revere Steinitz and Lasker. It is Bird we love. His victories glitter, his errors are magnificent. The true sweetness of chess, if it ever can be sweet, is to see a victory snatched by some happy impertinence out of the shadow of apparently irrevocable disaster. Now that is called The Curse of Chess, and it was written by H.G. Wells, and that's who I'm going to be looking at today in this chinwag. Now, not knowing very much, I know bits and bobs, but not knowing very much about H.G. Wells, I decided to look him up in this book, edited by Margaret Drabble, and I read Herbert George Wells, 1866 to 1946, and he's from Kent. His literary output was vast and extremely varied. He was a novelist, and he wrote The Time Machine in 1895. He should have been down watching Pillsbury. And then it mentions various other books. Wonderful Visit, The Island of Dr. Moreau, The Invisible Man, The War of the Worlds, and his lasting legacy, of course, right round to sci-fi of today. History of Mr. Polly, which is sort of little man who was a little man. Experiment in autobiography in 1934. A striking account of himself. Well, there we are. There's a little cockshy. He warns against chess. And as if by magic, here was a picture of the man. Selected short stories. This is Penguin. And in here we have The Time Machine, which is the story of going forward and back, and what he saw and what he didn't like. Various visions. I can see now there's his rather pallid face and the unfamiliar sombre fire that had come into his eyes. I see him very vividly tonight. I sit recalling his words, his tones. His last evening's Westminster Gazette still lies on my sofa, containing the notice of his death. At lunch today, the club was busy with his death. We talked of nothing else. That is from The Door in the Wall. I'm sure you'll agree with me, that's very atmospheric. 300 miles and more from Timborazo, 100 from the snows of Cotopaxi. In the wildest wastes of Ecuador's Andes, there lies that mysterious mountain valley cut off from the Valley of Men, the country of the blind. Long years ago, the valley lay so far open to the world that men might come at last through frightful gorges and over an icy pass with its equable meadows. And thither indeed men came, a family or so of Peruvian half-breeds, fleeing from the lust and tyranny of an evil Spanish ruler. And that's from Country of the Blind, which is one of the short stories in here. Not so short stories. Not so short. As the echoing footsteps paced nearer and nearer, these footsteps that sound so loud in that other world and come so silently in this, Platner, that's presumably the chap's name, perceived about him a great multitude of dim faces gathered together out of the darkness and watching the two people in the room. Never before he'd seen so many watchers of the living. A multitude had eyes only for the sufferer in the room, another multitude in infinite anguish, watching the woman as she hunted with greedy eyes for something she could not find. This is the Platner story. So with stately swiftness, in the profoundest silence, the solar system fell from me. Oh, that's grand, isn't it? As it had been a garment, until the sun was a mere star amid the multitude of stars, and its eddy of planet specks lost in the confused glittering of the remoter light. Oh, eat your heart out, Galileo. Herbert George Wells is in town. The night was hot and overcast, the sky red-rimmed with lingering sunset of midsummer. Well, it's July here, so I should go out and look for it. They sat at the open window, trying to fancy the air was fresher there. The trees and shrubs in the garden stood stiff and dark. Beyond the roadway, a gas lamp burnt, bright orange against the hazy blue of the evening. Farther were the three lights of the railway signal against the lowering sky. The man and the woman spoke to one another in low tones. So it's romantic, it's atmospheric, it's also presumably appropriate, but it's hard to believe this is a story called The Clone. The man who could work miracles. My dear Mr. Fotheringay, of course. No, I don't think. Mr. Fotheringay waved his hand. What shall we have? He said in a large, inclusive spirit, and at Mr. Maydig's order, revised the supper very thoroughly. As for me, he said, eyeing Mr. Maydig's selection, I'm always particularly fond of a tankard of stout and a nice Welsh rabbit, and I'll order that. I ain't much given to Burgundy. Forthwith, stout and Welsh rarebit promptly appeared at his command. Let's get good service in there then. They sat long at their supper, talking like equals, as Mr. Fotheringay presently perceived with a glow of surprise and gratification of all the miracles they could presently do. And, by the by, Mr. Meedig, said Mr. Fotheringay, I might perhaps be able to help you in a domestic way. Don't quite follow. He's not the only one, said Mr. Meedig, pouring out a glass of miraculous old Burgundy. Mr. Fotheringay helped himself to a second Welsh rarebit out of vacancy and took a mouthful. I was thinking I might be able to work a miracle with Mrs. Minchin. Make her a better woman. How disgusting. This is almost X-rated. Mr. Meedig put down the glass and looked doubtful. She strongly objects to interference, you know, Mr. Fotheringay. And as a matter of fact, it's well past 11. She's probably in bed asleep. Do you think on the whole, Mr. Fotheringay considered these options, I don't see that can be done in her sleep. For a time, Mr. Meedig opposed the idea, and then he yielded. Mr. Fotheringay issued his orders, and a little less at their ease, perhaps, the two gentlemen proceeded with their repast. My God, never was Welsh rabbit as X-rated as this. Mr. Meedig was enlarging on the changes he might expect in the housekeeping next day, with an optimism that seemed even to Mr. Fotheringay's supper senses a little forced and hectic, when a series of confused noises from upstairs began. Their eyes exchanged interrogations. Mr. Meedig left the room hastily. Mr. Fotheringay heard him call up to his housekeeper, and then his footsteps going softly up to her. And that is from The Man Who Could Work Miracles. Jimmy Goggles the God. That is the next one. The New Accelerator. Certainly, if a man found a guinea when he was looking for a pin, it is my good friend, Professor Gibbard. Okay. Well, I've given you a flavour, perhaps, of this book. H.G. Wells' selected short stories published by Penguin. And there he is on the cover, looking proud, I hope. What's triggered this is I got some books from the supermarket. They have charity box there, poor box. The Sleeper Awakes. This is set in 2100. London has grown to giant proportions. Skyscrapers tower all round. Well, it was clever to know the word skyscraper. Great wheels revolve slowly about the city. How about that for being prophetic? Broadcasting and television are the method of communication, for there are no longer any books. In medicine, hypnotic suggestion is the universal nostrum. It is to these startling new advances that Graham, obviously the hero of the hour, awakes from his trance, startling because he had been asleep for more than 200 years, since 1897. Da, 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 da. There we are. This is a Sphere book. I should think it's quite rare. My copy is in terrible condition, which is why I like it. It was written in that comparatively happy year, 1898. Here's the other one I got. H.G. Wells in the Days of the Comet. At first, it has been an almost telescopic speck. It had brightened to the dimensions of a greater star in the heavens. It has still grown hour by hour in its incredibly swift, noiseless, and inevitable rush upon the earth till it had equaled and surpassed the moon. Now it was the most splendid thing the sky of earth has ever held. In its path lay war, revolution, hatred, and revenge. Well, there's the cover. This is a Fontana. Science fiction book. He died in 1946. He had a long life. From 1866, from time to watch Steinitz Zukertort, to 1946. So he died the same year as Alekhine. And this book was published in one form or another in 1906. The Comet, the Green Vapors, and the New World. Not a brave new world. And it starts with a bit of biography about Wells. There we are. Hope you've enjoyed this gentle stroll. Book club number 4, chess book reviews. At the start, anyway, a little bit about chess. Number 113. Thanks to everybody. Please like and subscribe. We are very, very short of members. Very important to get some new ones. Thank you.